145% is very high, and it won't be that high. It'll come down substantially, but it won't be zero. It used to be zero. We were just destroyed. China was taking us for a ride, and just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We're going to be very good to China, and I think they're going to be happy, and I think we're going to live together very happily and ideally work together. So I think it's going to work out very well, and I think we'll make a deal with China.
In meeting with...
If we don't make a deal, we'll set it. We'll just set the number, and, I think they'll want to be a part of the United States.
President Trump speaking with reporters yesterday about his China tariffs. This coming after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told an investor summit he expects the United States and China will de-escalate the tariff impasse because it's unsustainable for both countries. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the White House already has 18 trade proposals with foreign countries on paper. Joining me now, O'Leary Ventures Chairman Kevin O'Leary. Kevin, good morning to you. Your thoughts on not just what you heard out of the White House yesterday, but market reaction to it?
Well, it's positive today, but it doesn't get rid of the volatility. We need more than just the job-owning 18 paper deals. We need to sign one. India would be good. That's the one we've talked about, which the administration has most recently, to show that the majority of these countries, let's call it the EU bloc, Britain, which is not part of the EU, Switzerland, not part of the EU, then Canada and Mexico, India, they're more than 70%. So if you have that advancing, that's great. But you got to have a deal with China. And I understand China has not returned the calls yet, and I'm assuming they will. The president is clearly throwing out more olive branches. That's going to be necessary. And we need a third thing as well. No more firing the Fed idea I mean, that is not helpful to the markets. The market, the overall market, particularly the debt market, the treasury market, really wants an independent Fed. Always has, always will, regardless of who's in the executive office. So we've got to leave that alone. So those are the three, that's the witch's brew of things that have to work together to get the market to start advancing again. Until all of those are in place, we're stuck in a range. Some days up 1,000, some days down 1,000, depending on what's coming out of the White House. But we need all three, and I think that's clear now. It's easy to get the Fed thing resolved. Just stop talking about it. It's clearly looking great amongst trading partners outside of China. The last holdout is China. Got to get that thing going.
Well, but you mentioned something about the bond market and Treasury yields. We've been watching them closely this morning. What you're referencing there, Kevin, to just reiterate for our viewers, is that Trump yesterday basically said he wasn't looking to fire Jerome Powell, which goes against the Truth Social post that he's been putting out there. He calls him too late. That's his new term for him. Kevin Hassett had said they were looking at ways to fire Powell. The reporting now from the Journal this morning is that basically Bessent and others just said, do you really want this legal fight on your plate to try and get rid of Powell versus leaving him in till next year?
When it comes to Powell, silence is golden. We don't need to talk about it anymore. The market just wants him to do his thing, dual mandate, 2% inflation, a long way from there, and also full employment, doing much better on the employment side. But Powell is not going to cut rates until he knows the China situation, because the China situation is inflationary. And so he doesn't want to be lowering rates right into a wall of really high-priced products, tariffed at over 200%. Coming out of China. So that's why the China piece of the puzzle is so important. And the president's right to be saying, look, let's get going on the China deal. That is what the market needs. If all of a sudden this afternoon Trump announced that he's got a meeting date set with Xi, the market would go up 2,000 points. That's just my own personal opinion. But that's the last peg in the puzzle. That's what we need. Everything else is looking better. And I'm assuming he doesn't have to talk about the Fed anymore, because it's clear that wasn't a great idea. You don't want instability in the bond market. You really don't want that. And I think I think China comes to the table. Now, you got the TikTok thing flying around here, too. That looks like it's going to get sucked in to the China negotiation. And that does not have a lot of days left.
So I was going to ask you about TikTok. Where are we? I mean, you were involved with a group that was going to, that had put was going to make an offer. I believe you did. This goes back a while now with you, Kevin. But where are we now? Where do you stand with TikTok? And what is that component of the TikTok negotiation with the tariff negotiation with China, do you think?
You're right, I am part of a group, but there's multiple syndicates trying to buy it, and we're all aware of the clock ticking, so to speak. We're on our second 75-day extension. I speculate that there will not be a third, because I think there's going to be some ambitious attorneys general in some state somewhere that's going to say, enough, can't keep extending this, I'm going to sue for the penalty, which is $5,000 per day times 172 million, which is huge. No S&P 500 company could sustain that cost. And so we're in a pressure cooker on TikTok right now. And this is a company that has a golden share, which is why we're waiting for one man, the head of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, decides the outcome of most companies in China. We've learned that through the TikTok process, through the golden share. And Xi hasn't decided if he's going to sell it or not. Or all ideas regarding using the algorithm were shut down 3 weeks ago by Senator Cotton, who said there will never be an indemnification from the U.S. government if you want to lease the algorithm, because they'll impose the $5,000 charge per customer per day. That's $800 billion a year in fines. No one's going to do that. So anybody who wants to buy this thing now faces rewriting the algorithm, which is not impossible, by the way. You can see the improvement on algorithms in Twitter recently, and also what's going on with Reels on Instagram. That's done with AI. So there is a way to solve this problem. It just depends, does Xi want to sell the videos, the accounts, and the brand name, and does he want to keep a 20% ownership? That's also on the table. All of this swirling around in the background. But I think this time there will not be a third extension from the White House executive pen. Ain't going to happen. I think there's just too much risk for the operators on the litigation and the penalties. So we're in a pressure cooker right now on TikTok. And remember, in India, this thing was shut down, and people complained about it for 5 days, and then they forgot about it.
But I mean, just to clarify, you are still interested in this pursuit of TikTok?
100%. Frank McCourt and I have been working on this so long and spent so much time and money. We're not giving up. We're like the dog biting your leg right here. We're not going to stop.
All right, good. Before you go, I don't have a lot of time with you, but I have to ask you about this. The Wall Street Journal has been reporting that political uncertainty is causing a lot of Canadians give up their vacation homes in the U.S., selling these properties that they've owned for decades, Florida, Arizona. Plus, we've got elections coming up in Canada. Final thoughts from you, Kevin?
Yes, elections are extraordinary. Next Monday, they will decide who the prime minister will be. It's not that they're giving up their homes. It's that the last administration, the Liberals, actually wiped out the value of the Canadian dollar. It's down from parity to 70 cents and below. So Canadians can't really afford, on an average salary of $68,000, to go to Disneyland or go to Florida. They don't have a currency that's worth anything anymore. It used to be called the Trudeau peso, but Trudeau was fired. He's gone. But that party basically wiped out a quarter of the population who lived just above or below the poverty line. So 10 years of Liberals, and extraordinarily right now, they have a slight lead in the polls because Carney, the he ran the Bank of England, you may recall, but he's just Trudeau 2.0, so a lot of people are waking up to that, and you're seeing a lot of volatility in the polls day to day. One thing I will say, which is extraordinary, in the history of the Canadian Confederation, there has never, ever been advanced polling this high. So Canadians are very, very motivated, beaucoup motivated, I think, to make a change.
Kevin O'Leary, always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you for being here.